All right, we're live. Hello, everybody. Let me get my mic adjusted. I don't want to be ghetto up here. Today we're going to be talking about how differently girls and boys are raised in America, and we're kind of going to have a discussion about why and is that appropriate? Is that proper? This is a very impromptu live, so yeah, let me turn off my background noise. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Anyone is welcome to hop on if they would like to come up and give their opinion. And let me go ahead and play my intro. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to be looking at a scene from the show Blackish. I'm going to make this full screen. And we're not going to watch the whole scene. We're going to watch about where they have this conversation in the kitchen. That is where we want to watch. And to kind of give you guys some setup for how do I make this full screen? To kind of give you guys some setup from what they were talking about before the next scene where they go to the kitchen. It was a discussion that the girl, I think they're both the girl and the boy in this are in their teens. And the girl was talking to her mother and father about what they considered a provocative picture that she put on her social media. They didn't show the picture, so I don't know if it was revealing or not. But what we do know is that they were expressing, yes, you have the right to wear what you want to wear, it's your body, but also we're displeased that you posted that online. And then we find out some stuff about the son. So let's go ahead and play that.
Bro, what kind of bird are we talking?
Hey, good, you're here. Hey, Diane, set the table.
Do you think it's fair you're treating me differently because I'm a girl?
Okay, fine. Jack, set the table.
Diane, we do not treat you differently.
You don't?
No.
You've seen Jack online.
I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I've already watched this.
He's shirtless and sweaty. And how many lectures did he get? Because I've gotten 2 so far.
That was a picture of Jack playing sports. Nobody's paying attention to that.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I bet Ashley Thompson saw it and liked it too. Which is probably why they've been making out in the school stairwell.
Whoa, that is not how I wanted it to come out. But it is true.
My boy!
But you don't know that because you're not in his...
So I just want to pause and already point out that like I said earlier, and I'm gonna add Key on the stream too in case he wanted to say something. But like I said earlier, they were expressing that they have displeasure with the fact that she's posting these photos online in which her body is exposed. Hello, welcome, Bia. Thank you for twerking. I appreciate my twerkers. Gang gang. But they were expressing displeasure with her clothing. But when it came to, again, she just said, hey, my brother is half naked as well, same age. He's half naked online, and you guys didn't say anything about his photos. And the mom is like quick to dismiss her. She's like, well, who cares? Nobody's looking at his shirtless photos. Don't nobody care about that. And then she even lets them know that he's apparently kissing girls behind the bleachers, which is some behavior that they would not like her to do. But when it came to him doing it, the dad is high-fiving him. The mom is like, hell yeah. So it's seen as like this, well, let's just play the rest of the clip since it's only a little bit left, and then we can talk.
business.
We don't have to worry about Jack as much because he can't get pregnant.
But he could get someone pregnant. You've always said you treat us the same, but you don't.
Hey, just to be clear, I'm really supporting this whole boys will be boys thing that we've got going on. You know?
No, not now.
I believe that is the entire clip. That was from the show Blackish, which I'm sure my watchers are familiar with. I hope so. If not, go watch it. But hey Lantonette, hey everybody. Yeah, Key, at this point you can come off mute and we can have a discussion about this. Like I said, it's like she's expected to adhere to this type of standard, right? Where usually it's regarding a girl's sexuality when she's growing up, and her parents don't want her to be making out. They don't want her to be sexual too quickly. They don't want her to be doing anything degenerate as far as sexual behavior. But when it came to the man in that situation, and not only do they not care that he's being sexual earlier, but also they are just blatantly like, hell yeah, they're high-fiving him, which if you saw the um the picture in my thumbnail, that's exactly what's going on here. It's like men are even encouraged to engage in this behavior that they don't want their daughters to. Did you have any thoughts on that before I went on?
Yeah, my bad. Let me gather myself. Yeah, so I definitely agree with the young lady. The parents were in the wrong simply because if you notice right there when she asked, when they said something about her getting pregnant, she said, well, he can get somebody pregnant. There was no response because they realized they were wrong, I'm guessing. But yeah, no, definitely wrong in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, of course, with the recent thing with abortion being no longer federally protected anymore and no longer a federal right for women, a lot of the discussion online is about how much women are kind of policed in regards to their sexual behaviors and policed around their pregnancies and expected to guard themselves and etc. But when it comes to men who are getting these women pregnant and are able to, get more than one woman pregnant every 9 months, there's kind of like, who cares? And the direction that the parents went in this is, I think the reason they didn't care about her saying, well, he's out here doing the same thing as me and he's doing more, he's kissing and stuff. Their response is, well, he can't get pregnant. And the reason they don't care that he can get other women pregnant, I feel like, is because we don't really have an expectation for men to raise their kids. So in their mind, if the girl is having sex and she gets pregnant, she now has a responsibility to take care of for 18 years. She now has a change that her body goes through, of course, for 9 months and even longer after that, postpartum depression. And she now has responsibility that she has. Her childhood is damn near gone. She's caring for another child now. Whereas if their son goes out to have sex with another woman and get her pregnant, it's kind of like a shoulder shrug. Like, well, that girl that you got pregnant has to raise her children and have to, right? There's kind of this connotation in society where women are, even today, while we're moving to a more equal society where women are working and doing financial stuff as far as providing and stuff, they're still largely expected to do most of, if not all of, the childcare. So I think maybe that's why they didn't really care that he can go out and get girls pregnant. But that's just me thinking. Raising their sons to be the boys they're trying to keep their daughters from, instead of raising sons to be the boys they want their daughter to be around, which is, I guess, was my next point. I don't necessarily have a problem with you teaching your daughter to avoid these types of men, be careful about who you're sexual with. Like, I don't mind policing your children when it comes to sexual stuff. But if you're going to police, why are you not also, again, having conversation with your son so that, like Lantoinette says, he doesn't become one of these men who you are actively trying to get your daughter to avoid. And not only are they, not giving their son that guidance, but they're even, again, encouraging him. In that clip, they are high-fiving him. Hell yeah, son. You out there making out, you out there doing whatever. They are encouraging the type of behavior in their son that they want their daughter to stay away from, which I'm sure probably the people watching me are familiar with that clip where these men are sitting around a couch talking about, would you rather have your daughter date Sierra, or would you rather have your daughter date Future or Russell? And one of the men was straight up like, I want my son to be Future, but I want my daughter to date Russell. And then he was talking about, I want her to date Future first so she can get hurt. Some weird stuff, right? I don't know why, but there is this encouragement of male children to engage in some kind of degenerate behavior. Do you agree, Key?
100%. So I'm gonna just agree with what you said without trying to go off on a tangent. That is a huge problem among a lot of households, right? And I'm not gonna put any fault on anybody's parenting skills or styles or anything like that. But I will say that if you've paid attention to any households, or if you've seen or been around it, where there is a young boy and a young girl in the household, right, brother, sister, that often leads to a lot more, because fathers and mothers are not teaching their sons to be the men that they want their daughters to be with. Therefore, that young man, when he grows up, he doesn't have the same kind of protection and the same kind of thought whenever it comes to, you know what I'm saying, caring for his sister. So these dudes are out here running around hurting his sister, you know, treating his sister poorly. And instead of him stepping in like, yo, like, if you're not going to treat my sister right, stay away from her type of thing, because that's how he was raised. It's more of a just, oh, well, like, you need to quit messing with these kind of dudes. You know what I mean? And it just creates that distance between brothers and sisters that really shouldn't be there. But it does stem from, personally, I think it does stem from them not being raised to be that type of man that they want their daughter to be around.
So, do you think we should raise our children differently depending on their gender, or do you think we should raise them?
Yes and no. Yes and no. You should, but you shouldn't at the same time. So whenever it comes to morals and ethics, right, there shouldn't be a difference, because realistically, there is no difference. Whenever it comes to moral behavior between a man and a woman, there shouldn't be a difference, because a man has the same moral responsibility to society that a woman should have to society. If you don't want a woman running out here, this is what I mean. If you don't want a woman running out here getting pregnant by 5 different dudes, right, having all these kids, and now she's stuck with all these kids, and now she's next to forced to being put on, you know, putting them on child support or doing whatever, because she can't be with 5 men at once, but she still needs those kids to be taken care of. It should not be accepted for a man to go get 5 different women pregnant, and then knowing he can't be with 5 different women, be absent from 5 different kids' lives, right? So that same moral responsibility should be equal for men and women. So they should be raised the same when it comes to that. Now, yes, I do believe they should be raised a little bit different in a way different sense, right? I'm not going to raise my daughter initially to be a tough little boy. That's not what I'm going to raise my daughter to be. I'm going to raise her to understand that she can be, you know, have feelings. She can be soft or whatever. And my son can have feelings, but I'm going to raise him to know that he's a man. He needs to be tough. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer that young boys should be raised up tougher than how I would raise up a young lady. That's like really my main difference between how I would raise them.
Well, I disagree fundamentally, because currently I feel like we have a problem in America where men are kind of expected, like you said, to be tougher. Men are expected to be less emotional and more logical, and in my opinion, less human. So I thought this was going to be a short live and that we were going to agree on like everything, but now we've hit a fork in the road, Key, and we have to talk. Why was I thinking about this? Key, we're gonna get right back to what you said, but yeah, this is earlier what we were talking about, how again we're talking about it now, how men and women are raised differently, or boys and girls. One of the first thing that came to my mind is the fact that T.I., I know you remember this, it was like extremely popular on the internet back then. We found out that T.I. was apparently looking inside his daughter's coochie to check the diameter and the hymen to make sure it was not broken and that she was not being sexual. I don't know if you remember. I remember this vividly. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna pull it up. Just so I can make sure that I'm not imagining things, right? Am I imagining things? Key, did this actually happen? Did T.I. come out and say, I'll be looking at my girl's hymen, my daughter's hymen sometimes to make sure she is not having sex? Do you remember this, or is this just
I'm
like...
not gonna lie, I would have to see that, because that is not something that I paid a lot of attention to. Now, granted, you know how we are always, I don't really get into the celebrity drama shows that much, so I haven't really seen that. But I am interested.
Okay, here it is. It should be on screen now. But this was more than 2 years ago. I knew it was a while ago. But he's getting this virginity test. He came out and he was like, I get my daughter checked every year to make sure her virginity is intact. And the way he was doing that apparently is having her hymen checked, which we could talk about that's not really how that works in the first place. I'm not a doctor, but you work in my field, so you know we have some level of medical and anatomy understanding about how the body works, just so we're able to do our work. And that's, while we didn't learn specifically about coochie in school, to my knowledge, not a lot, but the hymen being broken is not necessarily a indication that this person is not a virgin, right? To my knowledge, a woman can sneeze extremely hard and break her hymen, or like, it doesn't necessarily have to be you had sex and somebody broke your hymen, and in some cases that's even harmful, right? Because now you have young men out here trying to be extremely aggressive so they can pop this cherry or do whatever they were told happens when a woman loses her virginity, which can be harmful to the woman. But also you have men who are kind of shaming women if they don't bleed on the first time, I've heard about, because they assume that they are not a virgin and they're lying. Or hasn't that been used in the past, maybe to burn some witches too? Like, wait, you're not bleeding the first time, obviously you've had sex. Here's a free pass to discriminate you against you, right? But yeah, T.I. apparently he has his daughter's hymen checked every year. I don't know if he's still doing this as of today. But he has his daughter's hymen checked every year to make sure she's still a virgin. And his reasoning was it was kind of like, I'm policing my daughter's sexuality, just like we've been talking about for this entire live. But again, like the comment says on the screen, when it comes to the little dude with the hair, let me see if I can pull that guy up too. T.I.'s male children are like, I don't want to call them degenerate, but they engage in some questionable behavior, and he doesn't take them to the doctor to have a physical and I don't know, have their ball squeezed to make sure they're virgins. He doesn't do that with his sons because he does not police them sexually, like we've been talking about literally all day. T.I. does not do that. And the second instance that I was thinking about is Boosie, and the fact that Boosie comes on live, and I have no idea why this man is not in jail after doing this, but Boosie comes on what they call Beyonce's internet, and he tells the entire world publicly, and it's still available up there if you search it on YouTube, I had my son sexually assaulted by a prostitute. That's not the exact words he used, but that's what happened. He had his underage son molested by a prostitute who he was also having sex with. So apparently he being in the room with another man having sex is weird to me in the first place, but being in the room with your children having sex while they're still underage is extremely weird to me. But also having your child, Key couldn't handle it, guys. Having your child sexual at an early age, encouraging it and getting a grown-up to assault your child, that is yeah, that is degenerate, right? But when it came to Boosie's son, because of course Key said he's not tapping out, guys, he just had internet issues.
Yeah, that's pretty usual. I live out in the middle of, the world.
But yeah, just to finish up what I was saying quickly, Boosie is out here admitting on the whole internet that I get my sons molested, and once my other son comes of age, he's gonna have his turn too, and I encourage this behavior. And you have dozens and dozens and dozens of men, and unfortunately a lot of those men were black. I actually didn't see any white man cheering Boosie on, but you have these dozens and dozens and hundreds of men in the comments like, yeah, I want to do that for my sons too. But then when it comes to Boosie's daughters, the idea of them engaging in sexual behavior that early is disgusting to him. He says it's disgusting to anyone in the comments. And usually they'll make this type of, oh, it's not the same. He's a boy and she's a girl. But to me, it is the same. And I say all that just to say your idea about us raising boys to be, you didn't say we need to get our sons assaulted or anything like that. But just you saying we need to raise, I believe we need to raise our sons to be tougher and, stronger because they're boys. I have a fundamental disagreement with that. I think we already engage in some kind of toxic behavior around raising our children. And usually it hurts the women, right? Because again, they are teaching their sons to do this type of degenerate behavior that they want their daughters to avoid. But also it hurts the men. Like you said, I'm going to teach my son to be stronger. I'm going to teach him to be less emotional. I'm not going to teach my daughter that. I'm like, you are already putting your son into this box that I think we as men should be trying to break out of. And let me go through some of the comments to make sure. This attitude, you can respond to that if you want to, Key. I think this attitude is vital to maintain the patriarchy. This shames girls before they even step into our womanhood, conditioning us to be a utility rather than understanding and stepping in our own power. I don't have the mental capacity to interpret this comment or comment on it. I'm just going to leave it up on the screen and read it again as Key responds so that maybe my brain can work a little harder and I can understand what this means. Oh, you know what? I think I get it. But I'm going to let you respond, Key. You can go ahead.
My bad. You want me to respond to the comment or to what we were just discussing a second ago?
You can respond to what I said, and what I'm saying to you specifically. I just went on a tangent about Boosie and Ti and how they raise their daughters and sons.
Yeah, no, I
differently.
heard that, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that was going to be my next conversation to bring up, or my next situation to bring up with Boosie specifically.
But what I want you to respond to, I want you to respond to in particular before you address that is I'm saying to you and your comment of I'm going to raise my son. I believe that our son should be raised to be stronger or, more, whatever.
Okay. Yeah. No. So I don't personally think, right, and I'm not going to go back on what I said and change it, but I don't personally think that it is a bad thing to raise boys to have emotion or to think it's okay to show emotion. I think that's okay. But when I say raise them to be tougher and stronger, when you break it down right, when it comes to the anatomy of a man and a woman, they're different. Men are naturally built stronger, bigger, faster, stronger than women naturally, right? So with that being said, right, if you're late at night, husband and wife are in bed, sleep, kids are in their room, sleep, you know what I mean? And you hear somebody breaking in your house, or you hear somebody creeping around your house, and you didn't invite them over, what are the chances that the woman is going to hop up out of bed, you know what I mean? And nothing against any women, because there are a lot of independent women who live alone who don't have a choice, right? They don't get this option, right? But if you are in a naturally built home, husband, wife, kids in the room, right? The woman is probably not going to be the first one to hop up and go sprint and see what's going on and encounter an intruder and hope that, you know what I mean, that's what happens, and then going about her business. Like, it's probably not going to go down there naturally. But it seems more reasonable that she would hit her husband. Hey, I think somebody's here, or hey, I hear something going on. Will you go check it out? You know what I mean? Not because she can't, not because anything's wrong with her and she can't go do it, but for the simple fact that if you have a man in your home, or if a man is in the home, right, you expect that man to be the protector, to be the head of the household, to be the protection in the household, right? That's what you naturally expect out of a man, right? Because chances are he's bigger, he's a little bit stronger, you know what I mean? And then he has a natural protective instinct because of his raising, right? That's what I mean whenever I say I'm going to raise my son to be, stronger and tougher, because I expect him, if something, specific like that happens, to be the one to get up and go address what's going on in his home, right? Now, whether or not he's considered the head of his household, that is a totally different conversation, totally different topic. But whenever it comes to being the protector in that household, I want to raise my son to understand that when you get married and you have a family, whether it just be you and your wife or there's kids involved, it is your duty to protect your household. If somebody comes in your house and they are not welcome in your house, it is your job to make them leave. However that has to happen, it's your job to do that, right? Now, not all people are going to agree with me, but I personally believe that. That's just how I was raised. That's how every male in my family was raised. Now, we are not emotionalists. We are not heartless. We have, spouses, kids. And I mean, we do have a little bit of emotion, but whenever it comes to that tougher nature and protective nature, that's just how we've been raised. And that's just what I believe.
Well, I'm going to leave that because I think we also have a fundamental belief about a man's role in this society. I think a lot of that stems from the patriarchy, and a lot of that I think would be used to uphold the patriarchy. As far as me and my household, me and my wife are probably both going to be firearm trained. I might agree with you if we was out here fist fighting when somebody break in the house, but no, probably one of us is going to shoot them. I don't think it matters who. Yeah, I can't say I'm gonna be busting out like Rambo.
I like that. I like that. I also would agree with that. I mean, I'm trained to use firearms and stuff, so I mean, I would agree with that, and that's more times than not probably where it's gonna go. But you know what I mean? There are situations when you don't really have that opportunity unless you're one of those people that you can sleep with it under your pillow and feel, you know what I'm saying, nothing. You just sleep comfortably with under your pillow. Then yeah, I guess it's right there. But
even then,
kids, so
even then, a part that you skipped over was, of course, I'm not talking about the women who stay home alone, but when you're in the household with a man. But what we're ignoring is a large percentage of Black women in particular are single mothers and they do live alone. So with this type of thing where you think it's more important to teach your son how to defend himself and defend a home than your daughter, or it's more important to, you never said you're not going to teach your daughter that stuff, so I'm not going to make that accusation, but you are saying that you're going to emphasize that in your son and not your daughter. I think there should be an equal emphasizing on both sides. I don't think you should discriminate based on gender, and I don't think you are wrong for wanting to raise your children differently due to their gender. Obviously, probably everybody's going to do that. Women go through stuff that men don't. Women get pregnant and have periods, and that's probably not a conversation I'm going to have with my son about his body doing that, because his body won't do that. But we can raise them kind of equally but different, right? While I'm teaching my daughter how the period may affect your body, how this is normal, I'm also going to be having a talk with my son about how, again, this is normal for women to go through this. This isn't something to make fun of. I went to public school. A lot of guys made fun of girls, and there was this like fear for a lot of girls that they're going to come to school and bleed through the pants, or they're wearing white on the wrong day, or blase blase blase, because obviously when that happens, instead of people being sympathetic for them, they're going to point the finger. So even though I can't teach my son the same that I would teach my daughter in regards to some stuff that only happens to women, at the very least I can still have a conversation with him about that, so we can at least normalize it in the men. And again, even though I can't teach my son about, hey son, pregnancy is going to be rough on your body, because it's not, he doesn't get pregnant, I can at least teach him about what it does to a woman's body. All right, Key hopped out. Key couldn't handle the conversation, guys. We can still have that conversation with our son about what pregnancy does to a woman's body and how it affects her, and we can still have him understand the all right, Key said he's not tapping out. Key, what's going on? Do you want to have this conversation or not?
Yeah.
Key?
Hey, look, I'm out here. I'm out here visiting my parents, and like I said, they live out in the middle of nowhere, and service is always atrocious.
I have a friend who's 32 who gets scared she'll have her period around a man because he might curse her out. Like, girl, why would you want to deal with a man like that? How old are we? I think in this video we were talking about in the video I think the children were like 15. They were teenagers, I'm pretty sure, in that video we watched, if that's what she's talking about. But yeah, I also have female friends who are scared to be on their period around men. And then which is interesting, because I also have male friends who are like, what's a red light? I'll run it. Like, it's interesting dichotomy between my friend group. Some are ashamed of it, men and women, and some are just do all types of stuff. Feel free to let me go through some of these comments. Surely none of these comments are degenerate, so we can probably read them all and put them all on screen. This is the comment I read earlier. I think this attitude is vital to maintain the patriarchy. This shames girls before they even step into womanhood, conditioning us to be a utility rather than understanding and stepping in our power. I think I didn't understand earlier, but I think I can kind of understand now. And Bia, you can explain in the comments or come up if you want to clarify. But like we've been talking about, there's kind of this conditioning to women, right? Excuse me, to girls when they're young, where already you are shamed for sex and you are kind of this object for men to use, and it's up to you to not let these men use you as an object. But also this type of objectification of girls that we don't do to boys, like she says, I think maintains the patriarchy. Maybe that's what she's saying. Again, some of these concepts I don't really have the capacity to be the voice to interpret them, but I think that's what she's trying to say. Hopefully that was a good take. Teaching children to be heart-centered will mitigate a lot of the bull that's done once they become adults. I don't know if that was aimed at you, Key, because you was like, my son's gonna be tough. But okay, I'm not going to comment on your parenting choices, Key, because I'm not a parent. So I'm not a parent. Degenerates, yeah, but we were talking about Boosie. There are some degenerates: abuse and sexual assault, emotional regulation. There's also, again, this, like, when it comes to sexual assault, there's this blaming the women for what the men are doing. Like, that's been the theme of this whole conversation. It's up to you ladies to navigate in this dangerous community. We're not going to police the men, we're going to police you. And instead of kind of removing these landmines from around the community, we're going to I got the wrong comment on the screen for what I'm talking about. Where'd it go? The comment's gone. Did they delete it? Put it back, please. Whoever this is, delete it. Yeah, I forgot my point though. Key, if you have anything to say, I think I have said anything. That man is a fool. That blood was his life source. Wait a minute. Did I miss something?
I think
Hold up.
I think she was talking about the comment with the guy about being afraid of the period, the lady being afraid of the period around the guy. I think that may be what she was talking about when she said that guy was a fool in the whole blood situation. The only thing that I wanted to point out, I did see in the comments, maybe I misspoke on something, but I don't know if I did or did not. But somebody asked about natural instinct. She said, if you were raised that way, is it a natural instinct? I didn't mean to say natural instincts, if that's what I said. I just meant naturally, like naturally a man would be the one to get up and go do the protection right now. So if you're raised a certain way, obviously it's not a natural instinct. It's not something that you naturally come out doing. But I didn't mean to say natural instinct, if that's what I said.
Do you think it's natural instinct?
Do I think as far as like the whole protection situation?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, I wouldn't even say not necessarily. I'll say not at all, because here's why, right? If you are raised your entire life not knowing or not being taught to be a protector, to be a fighter, to do anything like that, do you think that you would just naturally grow up doing that, right? No, I don't think that's the case. So things that I think are like natural instincts that like people do or young kids do, right? Put your kid on a bed and see what they try to do, right? They'll try to roll off, or they'll try to find their way to the edge of the bed to get down. You know what I mean? Naturally, without you even having to teach them to do that. Those are like natural things that they pick up on and do. But your kid is not going to just naturally go out there thinking, you know, when I get older, I got to go protect the household. I got to be the man of the household. I don't think that is something that is naturally built in any gender, man or woman.
I actually agree with you. And what I don't think this is, hi, Concern. Let me find out, Concern over here. Let me find out my little channel has 5 people watching currently. Look at me getting big. Yeah, what I hope these are not. What I hope this comment right here, I think it's learned behavior in this comment that followed it, right? Because if it was natural instinct, that's what would be done at this point. What exactly. I hope this is not. This better not be a critique of black men. I don't know what possessed y'all to come over here and criticize black men on my channel. We coddle black men over here. But to answer this, yeah, I think we are all in agreement here. There are some grown men who are still negative about periods. Those men are childish. Don't talk to those men, because I have friends who will run a red light, and if you need to talk to them, I'll hook you up. You can hit up my email at the end of this live. It's on every live stream. Other than that, yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with you and everybody in the comments. It sounds like it's learned behavior, it's cultural behavior, which is why I have a problem with you saying you are going to teach your son and daughter differently. Well, that's not the problem I have, because again, different doesn't necessarily mean not equal. But it sounds like there's going to be a lack of focus on this sort of protect and provide and logic and emotional strength that you're going to be teaching your son versus your daughter. But what it is.
And you know what? I actually will agree with that, simply because I did not mention that. And I would not, like I said, I would not leave my daughter out of the understanding, right? So my daughter would have that same understanding. Hey, listen, at some point in your life, you could probably grow up and not have a man in your household, or not have, you know what I mean, any sort of protection whenever it comes to anybody necessarily being there to be your protector. So you may have to do that yourself. You may be stuck by yourself, and it may be on you. You know what I mean? So these are the basic things that you need to understand. These are the basic things you need to learn. And you know what I mean? And when all else fails, I'm going to make sure you know how to shoot a weapon. Because I'm a firm believer in that too. So I'm going to make sure my kids know how to do that whenever they come of age. I'm going to make sure they know how to do that. Simply because if they ever find themselves in a situation, and I will not act like a tough guy, if they ever find themselves in a situation where, hey, you're outnumbered, they got things you don't have, and you can't get out of there, it's life or death at that point. So I'm going to make sure my kids understand that. But yes, I will put more emphasis on it when it comes to my son, because like I said before, I believe that is my son's responsibility. I believe that's his job, as I believe it's.
But do you understand how that kind of perpetuates this patriarchy that we're trying to escape? If you assign that role to your son, because I was with you. I was with
That should
you.
be my daughter.
Huh? You don't believe what? That shouldn't be your daughter?
Yeah, no, I said I don't believe that's my daughter. If there's a man in the household, I don't believe that should be her. I believe that man should be the one to get up and make first contact on, hey, what's going on in my household? Because, like I said, I'm a firm believer in this old school style of living, right? And I'm sure some of these women, I don't know who they
Okay,
are.
wait. Before you continue. First of all, hello Reese, and hello Nia. Second of all, do you? Because I know where this conversation is going. Do you remember the talk we had with the other PZ, where the other Prince, T Prince, where he was? We all admitted that we have this type of conditioning, and what we were talking about at the time was, is it appropriate to teach your son to hold the door open for a woman because she's a woman, and not teach your daughter to hold the door open for a man? And we kind of all collectively said, I'm not going to teach my daughter to hold the door open for a man. But is that fair, and is that the society we want to move forward, or do we want to move forward towards a society where people are not doing something for you because of your gender, but rather if you're teaching your son to hold the door, you're teaching him to hold it for everyone, and if you're teaching your daughter to hold the door, you're teaching her to hold it for everyone, or you're just teaching her, period? I don't think people teach their daughters. Key does not want to have this. I refuse to believe Key wants to have this conversation. Whenever the conversation gets deep, Key leaves. I don't think Key wants to have this conversation, and that just upsets me. That upsets me. But what I was trying to say to the people in the chat who are still watching is, I had a conversation with Key, and the conversation is all about how we still teach our these women. Yes, these women. See, that's the problem with these women these days. They have a problem when you say these women. Here's Concerned. Hello.
Hey, Betty, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I am kind of late to the show, so I hope I'm on topic. But yeah, I'm excited to catch you live. I'm excited that you're kind of talking about the things that interest you. This is exciting.
If there's not going to be another black man to do it today because he wants to take a vacation, I muted you, Key, because your mic was a little loud. But if the good black men decide they want to take a vacation, apparently somebody has to say something this weekend. So
It
yeah.
don't even got to be about all that. You got a different ministry, it's okay. But kind of on the holding a door thing. So I think that, and tell me if I'm if I'm tracking, but we're also taught to hold doors for elderly, right? And so when I think about the reason why we do it, it's acknowledgement of people who are stronger holding up for the people who are weaker physically, right? And so though we can all hold a door, and we've kind of created a society where there's accessibility and able, bodied people, as well as people who are traditionally disabled, are able to kind of function. I think that this is another one of those things that are about kind of holding on to older ideals of what a gentleman was, that kind of like ultra masculine person that was kind of and I know that this is really goofy, but a superhero in disguise. So, the ultra masculine character being a Clark Kent or a Bruce Wayne that, is holding everything down and is super, super powerful beyond all our imagination and all of our understanding. But, you know, you get little glimpses from them opening the door for people, or them, you know, being courteous. It's the idea of it being a power move, or being something that kind of shows that you are the most refined person in the room. You're the most powerful it's a demonstration, I think, in terms of what it signifies. It's not about whether or not anybody needs the door open for them at this stage. I think that it's a demonstration of that person taking care of you, and kind of the way that, so from that point, I don't know, like in a partnership, I can see it being appropriate. I think that in, you know, I can see it being appropriate just in general life, people holding the doors for other people. But I think trying to like think about my daughter versus my son, would I want to teach my daughter to hold the door open for a man? Yes, if that man needs help opening that door. And there's tons of places where I've opened doors for men who, you know, yeah, who are younger, who are older, who are not able. Also, people just who are coming in behind me, you know, like I try not to, I don't want us to overthink it from a standpoint of like, I don't know. I don't want to, it is something that can be overthought, but I don't want us to overthink it and miss out on the fact that it is a nice thing to do. And you know what I'm saying?
Here's where I want to make a comparison. Let's not focus on the door so much. I was using the door as an example because that's what Key, I, and another man were talking about a few weeks ago. And like you said, we've acknowledged that even though we know that this is just some type of some traditional conditioning that we have around what men should do for women, and we agree that it would be correct moving forward to encourage women to hold the door open for whoever, right? Just be polite, who cares about gender or whatever, and men to hold the door open also. We all like unanimously agreed, we kind of like we cringed at the thought of teaching our daughters to hold the door open for men. And specifically what we were talking about today was more, if would you teach your daughter to, there's a bang in the night, get up, grab the strap, and go see what it is, baby, while I wait in bed?
And on that note, it's kind of like, I don't know if this is me kind of throwing a wrench in the whole argument. Someone needs to do it. I would want it to be the person who knows what they're doing with the gun. And men are more likely to be trained for that, right? Like
No,
Boy Scouts.
don't do it. 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 You're going to open up Pandora's box to saying something totally different, because it sounds like you just said that men are more likely to know what they're doing or to be trained or whatever when it comes to that situation. So the only reason why I stop you and say don't do it is because Petty knows too, but I served in the military, and I promise you there are some women, now granted the training's a little different, but there are some women who are way more trained and way more skilled whenever it came to weaponry than any man we ever had.
Oh, I love that. And I want,
So,
like, it's the person who knows what they're doing. You know, like if the woman knows what she's doing, yes, here for it. You know what I mean? Like, I would want him to come down with me, which is a part of, you know, traditional mindset. If I'm going to be the person who's the most skilled, I would want him to come with me. I wouldn't want to go by myself. But if I'm trained in using weaponry, it makes sense that I would use that skill set to protect our family. But, you know, if we're being honest, like slingshots and, you know, a lot of things when it comes to Boy Scouts, like we do have programs that train men to kind of have an aptitude when it comes to this stuff, a little bit more so. And so that's where I was going at it. Like, it's not like, I understand where it could be seen as wrong, but because of the the fact that guys get toy guns, they get Nerf guns, they get all the above, like they might know what they're doing more so with this thing.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from with that. I would agree with that also. I just wanted to go to one comment really quick, Petty. I ain't gonna go on anywhere in it though. But somebody in the comments said something about when I said old school, what years I'm talking. Anybody 30 and up. That's what I think. That is like the last of the good breed. Whenever it comes to generations, is 30 and up. So that's the age group that we are in, and that's what I'm talking about. But yeah, other than that, continue.
Welcome, Lantonette. I'm gonna respond to what Concern and Key said, and then I guess Lantonette can say what she wants to. I think Lantonette, you can go. Let me form my thoughts. I don't want to say something stupid up on this internet, so let me think before I say this.
Oh, okay. So I'll say something stupid on this. I'm sorry. It's okay. So with the training, who goes out to see the burglar thing, I've had this discussion with my husband, and I'm like, I don't want you to. I want us both to stay and secure our room, and if we can both try and make it to our daughter's room to secure, because you're taught to. Because you're taught to, especially when you ever had active shooter training, you don't go out and attack the shooter. The first thing is they say is to run if you can, second then hide, and the last thing is to gather together and fight. If there's a break in the house, I'm literally teaching same things I lose in active duty training to my child is to hide. And we'll try to get together and fight together because if it comes down to it.
So y'all
But
be
you
linking
defend
arms.
together. Yeah. And
So
I'm really training my daughter and if I have sons, my son both to use firearms to protect themselves because this world is crazy. And just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you don't need to know how to protect yourself. And for men, you need to learn how to protect yourselves as well. But that's our solution, to come together, protect the home together, secure ourselves together, because then we're combining our strength. Because what if he takes out my husband? Then me and my daughter is going to die anyways because they're going to come take us out next. We have a better chance of securing the home together than one person.
I have to address something in the comments, and I'm going to respond to you. This comment said that I'm more handsome than I thought you were. That is a very important comment that we need to talk about, guys, because wow, amazing. But then this comment,
No, we don't. Stop it.
this comment made me feel insulted. What did you feel like I looked anyway? Lantonette,
No. The comment that you need to address is the one that says old school, but the way women were treated in the 80s and before. That's not what I'm meaning. That's not what I'm meaning at all. I'm not gonna go off on the tangent, but I don't mean slavery, old women couldn't work, old school. And I would just say it like this because I don't have a better way to put this, but most black people know what I mean whenever I say old school, right? Black people were raised a certain way whenever it came to like the 90s and stuff like that. I'm talking like our parents, grandparents type old school. You know what I mean? Men did things for women. Women obviously were strong in the black community, very strong in the black community, but men did things for women type old school. Not like slavery days old school. That's not what I'm meaning.
I definitely received that. Petty, can I jump in, or did you?
Yeah, go ahead. Just open mic.
Like, I definitely receive what you're saying. Like, yes, there's a nostalgia we all feel about when we talk about old school, but I really want us to start becoming specific about the times so that we can dissect it, because there's this phenomenon when it comes to psychology where when you think about the past, like hindsight is not 2020 actually, usually, because you usually will romanticize certain things, forget other things. It's very, very normal. And so when we talk about old school, yes, most of us can kind of follow, but I want us to maybe elevate to a place where we can kind of speak about specific time period. And I think I heard you say the 90s, so definitely. But like when I'm talking, but I guess in general, I want to point out that like we should start being really specific. So when we talk about putting virtues on an old school belief system or an old school way of life, we can also contextualize it so that we can, if we're going to keep it, we have to reframe it for what it is now, because during those times, it was a different world. Like, we had different presidency, we were in different wars, there were different levels of access to information, there were different tools, there were different we were dealing with different medical things going on in the world, different stigmas and phobias. And so there's certain room you have in the old world, depending on the decade, where certain things were easier to do. Like, this is the easiest one, and I won't go too much into it because it's pretty colorful just saying it, but like when we could have, it was easy for anyone to get a home. That is a very specific time period. Like, it is nowadays, to not be able to have a home as a 30-year-old person, and this isn't necessarily everybody's goal, but like most people cannot afford a home right now with one salary, even with two people's salary, because of the housing prices right now. So like if we are talking about like having extra space and all the above, that's a context for a very different time. I don't know if that's the best example, but like, and I'm not really pushing back on your statement on old school. Like I said, I got in late, so maybe I'm off base here, but it's just one of those things that I really want us to, in general, start really being particular about. Like, when was this time? You know what I mean? What
For sure.
we're talking
Agreed.
at that time.
Agreed.
I want to address certain comments in the order that they came in. And the first one is, number one, I won't tell my daughter to go investigate. And number two, most women don't know their way around a firearm. And it's not necessarily, Key and I come from a military background. We were both stationed at the same place. So like he said, most of the women I know their way around a firearm and probably can kill me. They probably know it better than I do. So it's, even though we have women in our lives who obviously can defend a home and pick up a gun and go do that, I can acknowledge that maybe most women don't know their way around a firearm. But again, that's kind of what the conversation is about today. That is something that I would like to be a relic of the past. And in the future, we kind of treat girls and boys equally as far as raising them to be protectors or whatever you want to call it, to learn how to fire a firearm, defend themselves, right? Ideally I wouldn't like that delegated to a male role. But also I think this is more of a comment on how things are right now versus how we want them to be in the future. Like 50-50 is something that I talk about a lot, but what a woman brought to my attention is we currently live in a patriarchy, and that patriarchy benefits men financially over women. So is 50-50 really fair in a society where we are literally giving men more money for doing the same job? And is it fair? I think the comparison I'm making is it fair for you to expect a woman to go up in the middle of the night and protect you, even though you are, I don't know, a big, strong man? And also what they were saying is not everybody has a gun. When it comes to a gun, to me, guns are unisex. It does not matter if a woman does not know her way around a firearm, that thing is going to hit something. I would arguably consider that more dangerous than a woman who does. So when it comes to a gun, no, I don't think it matters your gender. But let's say you don't own a gun due to finances or due to somebody said, what about the UK? I didn't know, Bia, you're in the UK? Let me find out. Y'all Americans are old Americans. Let me find out. Huh?
Well,
What'd you say?
Well,
you're also in the UK?
No, I'm in Japan. It's 10 o'clock in the morning here.
What? Y'all are... I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Too, attracting audience from all over the world.
So maybe this is a American conversation because, like she said, a woman with a knife is less powerful with a man with a knife. Obviously, what you're probably thinking about when something goes bump in the night is who is more well equipped to protect. And if you don't have a firearm, then probably, yeah, in general, the man is going to be bigger and stronger than you physically and going to have a better chance of fighting. Now, if you're a big, strong woman and you're just on some dummy mommy energy and you're dating a 5'4" king, that's a little different. And maybe you can go and fight the burglar. But yeah, in general, probably if you don't have a firearm, maybe the man should be the one protecting. But wouldn't that be a case to teach whoever's that still, in my opinion, is a situation where you teach both your daughter and your son to protect themselves and protect the house. And then depending on who they date, probably will determine who is, like they said, who has the firearm training, who has knife training, who has aim for the femur. I don't know what that was about. Maybe I missed it. But yeah, I think it should be about who has better training, who's bigger, who's stronger if you don't have a gun, rather than what your gender is. Because look, I be dating some big women, like and when I say big, I don't mean like fat or anything like that. I mean, I have before, but like some big muscular women. You weren't in boot camp with me, but there's like this very strong woman, and she just outperforms all the men. She's definitely on some dummy mommy energy. Y'all know I'm a 50-50 guy over here. Coddle me, sugar mama me, please, somebody. So yeah, it's very possible I'll be dating a woman who goes to check out the bump in the night. But enough about me and my personal things. Let me go through the comments. While I look through these messy ass comments, y'all can respond.
This one, the comment that you are on right now, is the comment for the whole section. I like that one. About her and her husband both being firearm trained. Somebody breaks in, the husband's going to be the one to address it. She's going to the kids. So I think somebody else said it before, what happens if the husband goes down? Now me and my kids are dead, right? That right there is what I'm talking about, right? So she just explained it perfectly. Whenever I say I raised my husband to be I raised my son to be the protector, you know what I mean? I guess in the tougher sense, you are going to be the one as the man. You go to address what's going on with the person in the house. You go to address that. That is your job. You are the first line protector. Now, she is also firearm trained, so she is going to have her weapon there with the kids, obviously, as backup. If anything else goes wrong or if my husband can't handle it, here I am as backup, but I'm with my kids to ensure my kids are safe and ensure, hopefully, my husband can handle it. And I know that nobody else is in there, because if there's two people, right, and they both don't come in the same direction, one of them may be closer to going straight to the kids. One of them may be where the husband can get to them, right? So she's there with the kids. She's also trained. I mean, it's a perfect partnership, right? But yeah, that's basically what I was meaning. And she just said it when I said, like, the husband is a protector. He's going to be the one to go and initiate the contact with whoever intruded.
Yeah, but again, I feel like that's a gender role. Doesn't matter who's with the kids and who. In this situation, you're both firearm trained. Doesn't matter who goes with the kids and who goes to handle the issue. In my opinion, no, it doesn't.
Burglar is a woman.
Oh no! Now what will we do? We can't hit a woman.
No.
Now who?
I'm gonna just tell you right now, I've never been raised to hit a woman in my life, but if I'm asleep in my house in the middle of the night with me and my family, and you come into my house in the middle of the night uninvited, you might as well be LeBron James, because I'm not going to know a man from a woman at that point. Whoever is in the house is going to get it handled appropriately. And when I say appropriately, I just mean all I know you as is an intruder that's not supposed to be in my house. I'm sorry if the dust settles and you are some young, feminine, 5'1" woman who is trying to make a living for her family, and somebody pays you $30,000 to break into my house. You just broke into the wrong house. I'm sorry.
I support this message.
Yep. I agree with that.
I think most of us are majorly in agreement. I don't know. Oh, thank you. Yes, we have 7 people in the chat, guys. I finally blew up and got famous, just like I always wanted. I don't know what a TT is, but yeah, you can send that to me, I guess, in the Discord, or put it in the chat, a link to. I don't know what that is. Does anybody know what that is? TT? Oh, a TikTok. Damn, I'm dumb. Okay, yeah, sure. Send me a TikTok. My TikTok is Prince Petty or Prince.Petty or something like that. Feel free to send it or put it in the Discord. She won't even know how to load it. What? Nia, I believe you're trolling, because what world are you out here where girls don't know how to load a gun and shoot it? Well, again, we acknowledge that me and Key are around some different types of women who are usually military trained. So I don't know in general if women are less likely to be firearm trained than men. I don't know. I really don't.
I would say that when I think about, so recently I became open to getting a firearm for myself. I always had an aversion to weapons just because of the ideas around it. So for my birthday, and I haven't gotten to it yet, but I told myself I was going to learn how to, I was going to get my own weapon. Now, so women have access to learning about this at any given time because there's always somebody, and there's also YouTube, right? Like there's tons of content out there, but I think that there's a unspoken and maybe in some company in spoken um expectation that's um like you can't handle that is too much power. Like there's so much um right or wrong, right? Like there's so much lore around guns, and there's so much um around, when we think about the media, there's so much polarization around guns that if you're a left-leaning person, there are emotional barriers that go up around guns that I think affect women more than men, because we aren't as expected societally to know how to do this thing. And we might not have, like, I cannot play 007. I used to play board games with my, and not board games, I used to play video games with my cousins and all of them. Like, I have males in my family who I used to hang out with. I can talk, I don't have issues building, relationships with men and hanging out, but I never gravitated toward those video games. I never gravitated toward those toys. I never gravitated towards like paintballing, Nerf gunning, none of that stuff. I think there's just a visceral reaction because of the marketing around guns that I think that women have less weapons, I guess, or not weapons, but like have less something to like have less things to really kind of make that bridge, where men have more experiences to make that bridge if they're having a very stereotypical way of being raised. Like I was raised middle class, and I don't know if my dad has a gun, but I was definitely raised thinking that guns are serious and you need to be serious and all the above. And it's just kind of like making it the boogeyman. And the video game gun stuff never really attracted me just because they were really technical and I'm not coordinated enough for that. But when I think about the way that you can kind of destigmatize and stop freaking out about what a gun means and all the above, I will admit, as a woman and my friend group, they're just, I can't think of any woman that is in my friend group or that I've met over the course of my life who I could say that wouldn't freak out about getting a gun, knows how to shoot a gun, and she doesn't have any military in her family. You know what I mean?
Lansing, did you want to speak before I go?
Yeah. Hi, Concern. You've met me. I grew up on the opposite, I guess, that they call tomboy. I loved playing with the Power Rangers fighting games. I was always playing. Was it 007 when it came out on the
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah, I was playing it with my cousins, the 2-shooter games. I didn't mind, but I also played everything. I was just interested in fun, whatever is fun. I was there outside playing, cops and robbers with boys and girls. And my father had a gun, so when I would at his house, he had it out. I never shot it, but I've seen him shoot it. My cousin, none of them are military. The first person in my family to go into the military. No, second. But he took me out in Jamaica in some back place woods, and he showed me how to shoot it. It was scary at first, but it was fun, I guess. Um, of course, I was in the military. I went through boot camp. You have to learn how to shoot. You have to get that marker's man ribbon. So I want my marksman ribbon. So I got that, and that's when I was well, after boot camp. That's when I got really more intrigued with the possibility of becoming like a gun owner. Um, so after I got out, because I was in the reserves, I got out. I went immediately. One of the first things I did, it was weird, was go and find a local gun range and sign up for classes so I can learn. Um, so our experience is different, but I guess it just depends on the person. I don't know if it's because I was raised like to think that because there was these protect me, I'm a girl kind of things, but not to like prevent me because in our neighborhood, all the boys and girls played together. We played all the games together. We played the climbing on, jumping out of trees games
Mhm.
together, boys and girls, where they're doing the same activities. So maybe it is in the socialization, or like you said, you were never like drawn to it, but I was. I just naturally, it didn't feel like I was being drawn to it. It just seemed like something fun to do as a
Um,
just little girl.
and if I could make a comment on what both of you said, again, what it sounds like is that concern kind of has this conditioning, and this isn't you. You are you, so I don't know what you went through or what you experienced, but it sounds like you kind of have this conditioning to where these sort of things are not for you. You are a girl, and these sort of things maybe scare you. Sometimes picking up a gun is whatever. It's not marketed towards you, and what Lan B is saying is not. I shortened your name. I can't pronounce it, but I naturally was interested in doing these sorts of things, playing cops and robbers, finding out how to shoot a gun, playing with the guys or whatever. And like she said, what that would suggest to me is that this is social or cultural behavior that you are taught, and not necessarily I'm a girl. So we're going to talk about what Nia X said in the comments, which was girls just don't have it in them naturally to hold a gun and do these guy things, which I fundamentally disagree with, because like again, I feel that this is something societal. Like you said, guns and stuff aren't marketed towards girls. Training and stuff is not marketed towards girls. Even Key said, I'm teaching my sons to protect, provide. I'm not teaching that to my daughters. Is that natural, or is that me influencing my child and they grow up having this sort of worldview, and the patriarchy in society influencing my child, and men and grown men and women, and saying that women do this and men do that? But we are going to reset the room now. Key, if you wanted to comment before we do, but we're going to get back to the topic of how girls and boys are raised differently, and we're going to comment on T.I. and how he treats his sons and daughters differently.
No real comment, but I do agree. Like I said, it's just a societal thing, just based on how you're raised. Because, like she said, it was natural for her to go out and play with the boys and stuff, and to play the games and stuff like that. And then the military obviously influenced that and helped that. So whenever she came to getting, qualified with weapons and doing that thing, it was not unnatural to her to do it. But
Okay, to kind of reset the where we were. Let me share my screen so you guys can see what we looked at earlier if you didn't. What we looked at is Ti. This was from 2 or more years ago. If you guys remember, Key said he never heard of this. I believe he's lying to me, but I really remember this when Ti came out and said, yeah, I'd be having a doctor look inside my daughter's insides and make sure she is still a virgin and that she does not have the hymen broken, which, like I said earlier, isn't really a good indicator of if a woman is a virgin or not. The hymen can break for all different sorts of reasons, not necessarily just having sex. So this check was redundant in the first place, but also there's this type of policing that he does on his daughter's behavior, especially sexually, that we talked about. It seems like all parents, particularly in the Black community, do to their children, where women kind of have these higher expectations and these higher standards to hold themselves to, while men don't, especially when it comes to sexually. And we also talked about his other son, who I forgot his name. We called him Sideshow Bob because of his crazy ass haircut, but he doesn't have a problem with his son going out and making out with girls and being intimate with women early, just his daughter. And it sounds like Nia wanted the panel's thoughts on that. If you guys wanted to give your thoughts on Ti checking his daughter's hymen, and kind of leaving his sons alone.
I could jump in. I think Ti is a deplorable and a stupid person. Next statement. When I think about the issue, when I think about the outcomes, I think that this is kind of one of those things that I think that we think is giving men some sort of advantage, but then a lot of times they end up disadvantaged because they didn't have to have the discipline that the women have. And so I think we're seeing it in our outcomes where the men don't have the motive, like the same amount of discipline to go and, finish school or whatever. And so we're seeing that it's not working out in the men's favor because the women end up outpacing the men, and it could be the same household but the woman is way more stable than her brother, even if they're similar in age and their parents had money at around the same time. Now, when I think about the sex part specifically, keeping women away from men like the boy that you're raising and the man that you were, um, it's so simple, but and when I think about, like, yes, the answer is that is wrong and asinine, because then you're just perpetuating the same thing you're trying to the same boogeyman that you're trying to keep your daughter away from. You're not making the world a better place. But I think the fact that it is so common comes from that kind of idea that men that men want their daughter to be the Madonna and be a good girl. And I don't know how to really land all of those things coming together, but it's just kind of like, I think it's childish, I think it's short-sighted, and has proven never to really work well for any nation and any economic class. Because go ahead.
Real quick, are y'all trying to insinuate something about T.I.'s character?
Yes.
What character?
Exactly. Like, the thing about it is that, like, T.I., I don't mind a person who is about that life if they're truly about that life. Like, if you don't know T.I. is trying to be, and he's like one of the most interesting grifters, because he wants us to forget how he got there. He wants to cheat his way to being seen as a person who is, clean cut with his vocab right now and his misuse of a lot of words. And it's awkward. You can tell that a lot of this vocab is very new to him because he's using the words very awkwardly. And so it's just kind of like, there's this, he's disingenuous, and it just seems like it's everything he does is a show. Like, maybe this is who he is, but the level of insecurity that this man must have to make sense of all of that madness is insane to me. The level of insecurity and lack of integrity, because he's cheating on his wife with probably women that are like the women that he's trying his daughter to not be. So make that make sense. And he came up off of that culture. So, okay, you want better for your daughter, but you also, what does that mean for your relationship with Tiny? Like, it's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan.
A quick response, and then Lan, you can go, and then Key. Number one, hello, Vitamin. I thought Vitamin in the chat. Welcome. Having some very grown up conversation today. The theme of what you said and the theme of the conversation tonight has concern. The theme of tonight and the theme of what Concerned was saying has largely been, there is a culture around teaching your daughters not to do something, while also not only allowing your son to do that thing which you are actively trying to teach your daughters to avoid, but encouraging your sons to do that thing, congratulating them for it, and even sometimes engaging in that same behavior yourself. What we looked at earlier was a clip from the show Blackish, where there's this little girl, and she's being told by her parents why it's important for her to police her image online, why it's important for her not to be taking half naked photos and stuff. She pointed out the fact that her brother does that. He takes half naked photos and they don't say anything to him, and they kind of brushed it off to the side. She brought up the fact that not only does her brother do stuff like that, but also he's already getting intimate with women. Remember, these are both children, they're both teenagers in middle school or high school, and their parents, not only do they not care that the boy is doing anything, but they are high-fiving him. They are like, hell yeah, son, did you lay it down? How was it? So yeah, that's the theme of tonight conversation. Why is it allowed in men but not allowed in women? And why not only is it allowed in men, but why is it encouraged? Lancinette, you can go, and then Key.
Um, I stated earlier, like raising your sons to be the men you're trying to keep your daughters away from. It's kind of counterproductive. It's literally just it's counterproductive because at the end of the day, you're raising your sons to be this way, and the next man over there is raising his sons to the same techniques you're teaching your sons to get women to, oh, go open their legs, give away their virginities, give their bodies. You're all The next man is teaching their sons to do to your daughter, and you already know it's a lot of mind games and trickery that happens. So in default, you're literally just you're just creating the world that you already exist in. You're not protecting your daughter by teaching her to keep her legs closed, but at the same time teaching your sons not to. You need to teach both sex about control, self-control, and loving themselves and loving their bodies, and not allowing everyone in their bodies that does not worthy of it. I mean, just like a young boy should learn how to have self-control, learn how to love himself without having to receive love, going out and just having to have sex with women to create his kind of self-worth. It doesn't work like that. And then by doing that, you're teaching them how to conquer women, then you're teaching them how to basically dehumanize another group of people. And that's what T.I. is. I don't think he sees his daughter as, or his wife, as a matter of fact, as equal in humanity or equal human rights. Because the way he's teaching them, his sons, or the way he interacts with them is like, you're my daughter, my wife is less than you as a boy. These women are less than you. They don't deserve. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. My thoughts are just kind of all over the place.
Um,
Come
I
back to
think I think I largely agree with you. And again, it's not just Ti, right? We had Boosie up talking about how it's okay for his underage son to get some, but how he expresses his displeasure with his daughters doing the same type of behavior. And this is echo again. He had dozens and dozens, hundreds of men in the comments like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do for my son. And those same men, I doubt that they would have this same type of bravado and cheering for their daughters if they were getting sexual earlier. So I don't know why. I don't know why it exists. Is it conditioning to where, I don't know. There's like a desire to blame the victim basically in every situation. Usually the victim is the woman, tonight particularly, and it's like it's up to you to protect yourself. It's up to you to navigate this field of landmines and not get blown up, while you are again teaching your son to be the landmines. And then when your daughter does get blown up, which happens a lot in the Black community, taken advantage of or used or whatever, there's kind of this, well, it's your fault. We were telling you should have protected yourself, right? There's kind of this focus on the women policing not only their behavior, but being kind of blamed for the behavior of the men that they get with, as opposed to men holding the men, or in this case, the boys, accountable in the community. Why? I don't know. Steve Harvey said, I never cheated on my wife. I only did what she allowed me to do. It's like you were unfaithful and it's all her fault because she let you. And that's like the theme of what every man that we've put up on, Boosie, T.I., Steve Harvey, whoever, the theme of what the men are saying tonight has largely been, it's your fault what a man does to you. So you need to be reprimanded. You need to be controlled. You need to be kind of held to a higher standard. I guess boys gonna be boys, but whatever. Lan, if you wanted to say anything, you can. If not, we can go to Key, and then I'm going to try to wrap up.
I'm gonna just say a couple of things. One, that is the one phrase that I wish would die off in society, because I'm not gonna lie, I never heard that phrase and I never was taught that phrase growing up. Boys will be boys. That's not what that means. That is one thing that has been taught through society and through generations of little boys. That is the most ridiculous thing, right? And the only reason why I defend that so hard is because two reasons. One, I grew up part of my life without my father, so I just relied on my mother, so I'm very attached to my mother, right? Secondly, I have a little sister, a baby sister, right? And I protect my baby sister as if it's my daughter, because that's what I was taught growing up. But I'm gonna just say, this whole thing with boys will just be boys. There's no way on earth that people find it acceptable that boys or men will get away with things that are known and common to boys and men, you know what I mean, that they do. They should not get away with it just because we have socially accepted boys will just be boys. Don't like it. I'm very against it just because of things of the past, right? And that's me personally. Now, second, T.I. and Lil Boosie, right? So these are two guys that are only big in life in general because of their talents, right? Because they're both rappers. They have these abilities, right? Because whenever it comes to men that people look up to and people you look up to as father figures throughout the, you know what I mean, throughout the I don't know what however you want to say it, throughout the celebrity society, right? Whenever it comes to, we don't look at T.I. and Lil Boosie like people would look at Jay-Z, right? Or people would look at other father figures, you know, Uncle Phil, people like that. We don't look at them the same way, right? People are only looking at them because of what they do in the music industry. So whenever it comes to being fathers and how they raise their kids, I could never get behind them. I just couldn't, because like I said, Boosie doing what he done with his kids, ridiculous, because they're too young. I mean, they're too young to be experiencing that, whether it be a boy or a girl. And then second, T.I., with what T.I. is doing, the guy is not even all there in the head to think that that whole examination of the hymen situation is going to tell him anything about what his daughter's doing sexually, because it changes all the time. No two women have the same setup whenever it comes to their, you know, that setup. No two women have the same, and no one woman has the same setup from month to month, right? And especially, I don't know the specific age, but if she matured early at all, you know what I mean, she could have started bleeding and everything like that at an early age, and it changes then. Even then it changes. So with him going and having her examined like that, I don't think he realized that he was doing nothing more than wasting his time, wasting the doctor's time. And the doctor was only doing it because it's T.I. and you're getting paid, so you might as well do it and just let him go on about his business. You don't really have to tell him that he's wasting his time. Just let him continue to waste his time. But that's really all I have to say about it.
The only place I'm going to disagree is you said that T.I. and Boosie are largely recognized for their talent, and I will never, ever agree with anything like that of that nature ever in my life. Welcome back, Concern. You hopped off when things got serious. I assume it was too hot for you to handle. You can't handle a good black man talking about good black men in a positive light, so you left because black women hate black men. It is what it is. But welcome,
Wow.
True.
I'm so sorry I disappointed the team. I'll do better next time.
Thank you. Did you have anything to say about anything that I don't know if you were listening after you hopped down, but anything that we just talked about regarding T.I. and Boosie and how they treat their sons and their daughters differently?
I'm so sorry if I'm going to repeat anything. I think that because I wasn't able to listen, I had to hop off to be able to take a phone call. But basically, if we got to Boosie, I think it is clear that T.I. is down the wrong path if that's who he's grouped with. But I think it's accurate. And that says a lot, because wasn't Boosie the one who got a prostitute for his son? to give him his first time, or
Yep,
was that somebody else?
that was
Okay,
Boosie.
and I it's it's all trash. I'll have the AC on, so let me know if it's like loud or whatever. Because
No,
I'm
it
going
sounds
to
cool.
okay, but the I it's all trash. But what I wanted to add or comment on is that, like, how are these people allowed to do this? Because they're Black men. And when we think about, and they're doing it to Black women, when we think about, how R. Kelly, I mean, white guys do foolishness all the time, but like how R. Kelly was able to do all of this stuff in the wide open in ways some of his white counterparts had to be all cloak and dagger or whatever. I think that, like, even if it's your daughter, there's still a way that we invalidate Black women's lives and agency and mental safety, because I don't even think that they are thinking about their daughters as human in the same way. They see their daughters as ways to, make sure that they still look good. And their sons maybe basically the same way, but like for him to, both of the hims, right? The avatar of him, because they're both the same person, which again is not a good sign for T.I. It's like when I think about um the checking the hymen and checking and wanting to make sure she's pure. But then, you know, the little girl's running away and making it look like she's some sort of whore for doing all of this. Like, I I I feel like some of the things that these men have done should have been jailed. We don't chasten. I don't know if that's the right word, but we don't correct this stuff enough as a community, because it's like, regardless of whether or not you want your daughter to be chaste, that is way too far. But because these are Black women, there's a dehumanization that happens, and a seeing her as a tool for, whatever. There's an invalidation of that person that happens, that I'm so frustrated with the fact that we know this and these men are not in prison. I would honestly imprison Boosie or fine him something. I'd make him have a real bad Monday, a couple of Mondays, for what I heard he did to his son. Like, that's child abuse. But we're talking about Black kids and just the dysfunction that we're allowed to televise and talk about so calmly is the part that's really jarring for me. Like, it's like, how is this the way that we raise our children? How are any of these decisions logical? And I don't even need it to be fair. This isn't right. That's where I go personally.
Yeah, I don't know what. Of course, R. Kelly was just sentenced to 30 years, but that had nothing to do with that trial from so long ago where he was caught on camera in 4K. Number one, talking sexually to a 14-year-old, admitting, look, if y'all have ever seen the Boondocks, they literally made like this caricature of that tape where he's in the video and he's like, what's my name? Oh, my name is Robert Kelly. My social security number, here you go. Oh, I'm just with this 14-year. Like, he explicitly says some stuff in the tape where it's like undeniable proof that not only is he peeing on a 14-year-old girl verbally, but we can see it on the video. And I don't remember how or why he got off of this trial and why the world just collectively forgot it. I'm unsure. When it comes to T.I. checking his daughter's hymen, that is some weird behavior, but not criminal. When it comes to Boosie telling the world I had my sons molested by grown women, that is criminal. I'm unsure of why. Well, I haven't forgotten. I don't think anyone here has forgotten, but it seems like collectively people just brushed past it. That was like 2 or 3 years ago. So I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't know why. Lan, were you about to say something? I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I did see that Boondocks episode as well. It's crazy to me how, and it was the blaming of the little girl, like, oh, she should have moved if she didn't want to be peed on. And the only reason he got off then is the same reason OJ got off. They use the same, oh, you're just coming for another good black man thing, and that's how he was able to get off from this crime back then and today. And also back then, the adultification of black black girls also played into effect. Like, she's just a fast child. She's a child, but they don't see her as a child. Once you hit puberty in our community, a lot of times black girls are no longer seen as children, right? So you had the adultification of the black child, and then also him being the good black man that they're trying to prosecute. Someone who finally made it out, they're trying to, and the system is coming for him.
Not the good black man. No, why would they try to put? I legitimately think they are wanting a win because when it came to OJ, instead of cheering, I understand the desire to cheer because of how the system discriminates against black men, and the fact that a black man beat a case like that is insane in the first place. But gets away unscathed. That's incredible. And sure, you kind of want to celebrate it to mock this type of thing that happened to white people all the time who get away with it for so long. But what I feel like should be done instead is we should be encouraging that these types of people go to jail. And instead of getting looser treatment for black people, I think we should get harsher treatment for white people in cases like these. So maybe it's their desire to have a W so bad that they don't care that it's literally a man pissing on a child, or in OJ's case, it's a man killing somebody, or even Bill Cosby. They're like, no, he was going to buy NBC, something stupid. I don't know, but there's just this desire for him to win because he's a black man. Like, forget all the degeneracy he's done. Key, were you about to say something? And then we can go back to concern. Sorry.
No, for sure. And I'm gonna say the same thing I said and probably just repeat it. But think about this, right? Think about who R. Kelly is. Think about who R. Kelly was even in 2008. Think about who OJ was, right? Had R. Kelly not had some of the best, and I know y'all about to drag me for this, but I'm gonna go ahead and accept it because everybody knows that this is true. Had R. Kelly not had some of the best R&B music of all time, because okay, he did what he did, but we can't argue that, right? Had he had not been at that level, and had OJ not been arguably the best running back in the NFL, we would not be, as a black community, trying to argue for these two guys to make it. If these were just two regular black dudes off the streets, right, people wouldn't be fighting so hard for them to make it. But like I said about T.I. and Lil Boosie, right, there are a lot of people who like T.I.'s music, a lot of people who like Lil Boosie's music, right? So they're big in their industries, respectively. Same with R. Kelly, same with OJ. So a lot of people were fighting for them to make it. So a lot of people, including lawyers, you know what I mean? Because I know y'all do not believe that the justice system is as just as they say they are. You know they're corrupt, right? There were lawyers, there were people in the legal system fighting for them to make it just because of who they were. And that is how I believe they were able to get off of what they did. Now, granted, R. Kelly had money, and I believe that did play a factor into it and stuff like that. And I heard there were rumors about swapping like birth certificate stuff out, you know, all these crazy things, right? So it's like he had a lot of pull to get away with what he got away with. But that is why I think, as a black community, that people were supporting them so heavily.
Again, I'm going to disagree on your point that this man was an R&B god. Usher and Chris Brown have a versus coming up soon. If we want to talk about the real kings of R&B, we can talk about those two maybe and discuss them. But R. Kelly, look, R. Kelly had good music. Maybe it just doesn't hit the same now that we know he's a pedophile and a rapist. But whatever. Concerned, you may continue now. Apologies.
Oh, no apologies necessary. It just surfaced to my mind. So follow me and let me know if this is making sense. But when I think about how we police bad behavior within the Black community, we often offload it to white people. We really center what they will and will not allow when we're thinking about it. So because R. Kelly and OJ were entertaining for white audiences, and white audiences are more, it's not happening to their children, right? I mean, I guess with OJ it was a white wife, but in when we think about how how white people tend to prioritize how they decide repercussions for Black people, it's who is expendable based off of their ability to entertain them and to continue the system as is. If Black people would like to elevate their position, we're going to have to self-police so that before if we're going to be Black first and make that the center of our identity, then we're going to have to self-police and decide the rules of engagement for Black people within our own culture. But if we're going to decide to be American, for example, first, then it makes sense that we're going to center what is legal, right? But I think when I think about, offloading responsibility for cleaning up our neighborhoods to white people and their politics, then we're putting it into what works best for them. Do they need prisoners for their prisons in order to make more Victoria's Secret panties? Or, and does your life mean more than that panty? Can you add more if you were a running back? And I know that, when we think about the fact that these were known,
It's cutting out a little bit. Your microphone is cutting out a little bit, Concern. I can't hear what you're saying right now, if you can hear me. So Concern, I'm going to mute you really quickly. I don't know if you're hearing me, but your mic is cutting out. I'm writing in the private chat actually. But to kind of comment on what Lantoinette said. All right. What Concern, Lan, and Key said earlier, as well as some of Concern's back. If you want to finish your comment first, Concern, then I can. Yeah, like it was getting good, Concern, and then damn.
But it's because I'm driving. But I think I still have my thought. But the idea being is that when we center whiteness in how we decide good, bad, right, or wrong, ugly, whatever, we then have to understand that it's at white people's beck and call, and they will decide that an R. Kelly is more advantageous to sell records as a well-known Black musician than, even if he's hurting Black girls, it's not happening in my street, it's not happening in my neighborhood. OJ, they put their foot down on and were willing to go to double back and decide, no, we're going to get him on tax evasion. We're going to get him on something because he's hurt a white woman. And so that won't fly, right? But Boosie's doing this to a Black child. Kelly's doing this to Black children. And so when we think about what that means is that if we want Black women and children and men to be centered, we are going to have to self-police. And we're going to have to decenter whiteness because white people will never prioritize us over them. And so I think that the reason why the TLDR of it is that R. Kelly and OJ and whatever, they were straddling profitability versus, the message that they were sending. And it worked out different ways for both of them. But I just think that there's something to the fact that when Black men want to complain about the police and all the above, like, I think that what would probably make the biggest shift if we're thinking about solutions is if Black people self-police. this fear should not be being like white people finding out and what white people are going to think. Your community should be the first line of defense, but we don't really have it that way right now. If white people have not locked up a man, it's all right. If white people have not decided that that you know it's jailable, we let black men run amok against their own values or against what's best for their community, and black women, whatever. We can say both. But it's just one of those things I think that we need to really start thinking about self-policing, because we have to decide, since our necks are on the line, our children are on the line, we have to decide if we're going to continue to let the Boothies and R. Kellys run around, because white people are not measuring it the same way. They're not measuring it the way that we would that since it's our necks, you know.
And I want to respond to both that what you said, what Land B said, as well as what Key said. Key, as you've heard Concern and Land B say, as well as some of the comments, I don't think I think I let you off too easy with your comment about they're obviously doing this because he's famous. Bill Cosby, because he's famous, they're letting him off Boosie. I don't think it's about the fame. You claim that when it comes to a degular black man in the neighborhood doing this stuff, nobody cared. Nobody, they do put him in jail, and they do. But I think the data would disagree with you. Land B mentioned adultification earlier, which if you watch that live stream I sent you, maybe you understand the concept a little bit. But also, if you want to research that, you can look at, I think Georgetown Law did a study on it, where there's this type of vision or this interpretation that America has of black girls, including the black community, where we see them as more grown than they are. We see them as needing protection less. We see them as more mature, and we do this unfairly, right? Remember that these are children. And keep in mind, during the R. Kelly case, during that Boondocks episode that I mentioned earlier, actually, a lot of men were saying, she's 13. She can move out the way if she doesn't want to be pissed on. Like, instead of questioning why this grown man is pissing on a child, it's like, she should have again, the whole theme of tonight is we're blaming literally children, black girls, for the actions of usually older men, grown men talking to these children. And I think you largely did not acknowledge that in your comment, where you were like, it's just because he's famous. I don't think it's because he's famous. We have data around what happens with the everyday black man in his community doing these same types of things. And again, instead of coming after these grown black men and policing them, how often have you seen a black mom bring her black daughter on the internet, and she's like yanking her up by the arm as if she's a grown woman, and she's like, everybody, this is my daughter, give her full first and last name on Facebook Live for the world to see, and then proceed to beat the ever-living shit out of her child, tell her child she ain't grown. If she in your inbox, ignore her, right? And ignoring the fact that her daughter is talking to grown men, and these grown men are talking right back to her daughter and think that's appropriate. And there's like, nobody's going after the men, everybody is going after the little girls. Landby and Concern in the comments were like, this is specific to black girls. Probably has nothing to do with the fact he makes music and the fact that she was a black girl. Boosie's children are black, T.I.'s children are black. Nobody cares because they're black. And again, when we look at that adultification study, we can see that kind of rings true. People are like, there is no difference between black children and black adults. You're kind of forced into this grown view, specifically the women. And I think they did talk about, the Georgetown study did talk about how that affects women in the legal system as well. So yes, that would be applicable to this situation where you have a black girl who was assaulted sexually by a grown man, R. Kelly, and kind of is not taken seriously by the legal system, and no repercussion happens to the man. Did you have a response to that, Key?
I'm gonna say this real quick, and then I'm gonna leave it alone. I agree, and I would have to agree for the simple fact that I think we had this conversation before. You remember we talked about the black preacher, right? The black preacher that was grooming the young ladies that the parents had entrusted him to raise them right, in the church and teach them also or whatever. And that was going on, and I guess he groomed the young lady up, and then ended up marrying her when she turned 18, right? So nobody held that man accountable for the actions prior to him grooming her to marital age and then getting married. Nobody held him accountable for those actions. They kind of slid it under the rug and let it go and ultimately they wanted to blame the little girl for, or blame the mom even, I think is where most of the blame went, for her allowing the kids to be there with that black man. And I'm like, hold on, this is a preacher we're talking about, right? And this is a teacher we're talking about. Why are we, and like we said before in that discussion, why are we not focusing on this grown man that knowing what he was doing was wrong, instead of putting the blame on the kid or the mom that was sending her parent, sending her kid there? So I would have to agree fully on that.
Not you took what I said during our one of the discussions we had, internalized it, thought about it, and agree. Let me find out. You give me some hope for black men this year. Let me find out. This man
2022 is the year of the black man. We got it this year.
Okay,
we already
man,
lost the first half of the year. We already lost the first half of the year because nothing has changed in the first 6 months of this year. But it's okay. The second 6 months just started, so we got a chance to make something happen.
So yes, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Actually, that was a piece. I absolutely did like that. With that being said, I'm going to let everyone on the panel say their last piece, and I'm probably going to end it here just to give a preview of my next live. The day that R. Kelly was sentenced to 30 years, Key, I sent you this Clubhouse, and probably some of y'all have the Clubhouse link from the Discord or wherever. But I was downloaded Clubhouse for literally the first time, and one of the first conversations was from a black man, and the title of the conversation was, should 13 be the adult age? Should we consider 13-year-olds adults? And I was thinking, surely this is a clickbait title. I'm going to click into the room and he's going to be like, aha, I got you. This is actually a conversation about when's the right time to teach your children about sex? When's the right time to teach your children about police brutalities, some adult concepts. But no, he legitimately had, hours and hours of talking about why when he was 10, he just needed the right guidance, and when by the time he was 13, he could have been ready to marry, having sex, be working and stuff like that. And I literally had a back and forth with this man for maybe an hour or two, and where I'm literally, hey, it's not okay to see children in a sexual nature. And he's like, what's the problem with it? He's detailing how, in my mind, he's teaching how to groom children. His whole thing about, you need to start teaching your daughters and sons at age 10 about so that they're ready by the time of 13 to get married, have sex, be intimate, have children, work, and And what Jenny Bean said, you can't even work at 13. Yes, that's true. That's like one of the points that I made is, we've already seen what happens when you treat children like adults. We've decided as a culture that is degenerate, and we've moved away from that. And it was concerning to me that he had this conversation on the day that R. Kelly was sentenced to 30 years. And which is why I asked him, why are you having this conversation today? This is weird. What he said was, again, she was 13. She could have moved out the way. And he was telling me all about how 13-year-olds are actually more mature. There was a woman in there, and he was talking about, how old is your daughter? She's like 9. And he's like, yeah, her body's going through changes, ain't it? When are you going to start? Like, the whole conversation was extremely weird. I have saved that conversation as well as reported him to the FBI. Thank you to Panda. I forgot who helped provide the link to where we can do that. But that's what I'm probably going to be talking about next week, if you guys are interested, as well as the other conversation I had with some black men where, again, it was about the pastor. That's the one that Key was just talking about, who is talking to a child, grooming a child. And I had, again, nearly a 3-hour conversation with a black man where he is trying to convince everyone on the panel that actually children are grown-ups. And if a child is talking to a grown man, it's their fault. Again, there's this need to shame. Concern is going through it. there's this need to shame the girls and tell them they're actually more grown than they are, as opposed to holding the men accountable. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week. It was a very traumatic conversation that I had. I had this several months ago. I think I told you guys publicly on the internet, I have given up on black men after talking for about 1 week to them. I give up. That was the conversation that made me give up, and that was months ago. And it's been so traumatic to me that I just kind of wanted to put it down and breathe before doing a discussion on it. Um, but again, then I saw this Clubhouse, literally my first conversation on Clubhouse, where these men again, and this was not one room. This is like room after room after room where black men are discussing talking to children, and children should, the legal age should be moved down and stuff like this. And there's just such a difference. The women on the app, I think, Concerned, it might have been you who actually dropped the Clubhouse link in the Discord that I clicked on. That's why I downloaded Clubhouse, to listen to that conversation. It was such a good conversation the black women were having about the community. So I download Clubhouse, and the difference between the conversations the men and women are having is just so vast. They're talking about talking to children, weave and wig, makeup, the regular stuff, while the women are talking about being killed and how to protect our children and X, Y, and Z. So it was just like I wanted to kind of put that conversation from months ago in the back of my head and kind of ignore it. But the fact that these men made this room and talked about why children should be groomed, and talked about that for hours and hours and hours, and just there was this complete ignoring anything that I said, anything that I brought up about statistics. We did go into the adultification study, and they were like, don't care. So the fact that they talked about that, that was like a day or two ago, now brings that first instance to the front of my mind. And I feel that now it's necessary to discuss it, because at this point it seems more like black male culture than it does just an isolated event. Yes, Nia, 1 week, literally 1 week. That's all the time it took me to get tired. Themis took, what has it been, like a year, 2 years? Themis has been having these 10-hour long discussions with these men. It took me literally 1 week. I don't have the patience. I don't have the time. I can't teach you morals and ethics. This ain't a disagreement. You lack morals. What is it about a child that is a anyway? We'll save it for next week. Concerned in land, y'all can comment on anything we talked about during this live. I'm gonna give us about 9 minutes so we can make it a flat 2-hour stream, and then we can pack it up.
Okay. Quick statement. We need to actually realize that we are not benefiting a child over the other by treating a girl differently than we treat the boy. By doing that, we're also putting our sons in boxes of lack, which leads to lack of emotional control, a lack of self-control, and will in their adulthood we'll see that we're creating more unhealthy adults. Like, I know people don't want to hear this, but sometimes when, as women, we also uphold these ideas and we pass them on to our sons and to our daughters, we're creating the ripple effect of this degenerate culture we're trying to undo in our community. So maybe we should go back and to see how we are treating our boys and our girls differently, and how, because patriarchy has no gender, it just has rules that box in and marginalize us to benefit one group, heterosexual white men. And we need to actually go into that. And thank you for having this discussion. You know, you're getting big. You have like 10 people in the chat at one point.
Not 10 people in the chat. We getting big, y'all. Yeah, there's obviously a conversation that needs to be had, and there's also this feeling of, I am a part of the black male community. While I feel like black women, again, y'all have the divestment movement where you can kind of leave. I don't feel like I'm able to leave the community of black men, being that I am included in the community of black men. So, I kind of feel forced into having these discussions, even though, like I said, I've been kind of pushing it for months and months and months, because I literally give up. I do not want to talk to black men. Key restored a little faith today. Key restored a little faith. He said, wow, let me just reiterate what Keith said since he's not here. He said, I remember the conversation we had earlier where you were talking about the grown black man who was preying on these children and how he wasn't punished, blah, 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 blah. The point was, Key internalized that and he thought about it. And for all our disagreement, there was a thought pattern change. And if I can reach Key, maybe Key can reach somebody, and maybe that somebody he reaches can reach somebody, and we can have the conversation that way. And I don't even have to talk to these degenerate men. I can instill it in some other men to do it for me. Like,
Yes,
let's
Harriet Tubman it. You can't say
Harriet. Thank you.
just Harriet Tubman it. That's my new philosophy. Don't try to save the community. Just try to find people that have common moral beliefs and common goals that they want to reach, and create a new community with them.
But it's so, where are they? Where are these black men? Do you know how many Keys I have in my life? I think Key's thinking is problematic on some of the issues. If you've ever watched some of my lives before he's been up here, I think some of his views are problematic. I don't think he is the good black man that I'm looking for. But at the very least, he's willing to have a conversation. So I don't even see the good black men. Where are they? Where are these men who I can talk to and they don't talk about touching children as if it's appropriate? Where are those men? Please point them to me. We have Themis. That's it. That's all I got.
Themis.
It's a holiday.
Just a small amount, but that's where it starts. The community starts with a few people, and then it could grow. Find them. It's hard, but don't give up. We need more guys like you out here who's willing to speak on it and show yourself. Even if you reach,
I'm sorry. You said don't give up. After I have articulated several times, I gave up a long time ago. Yeah, I can't fix you. I can't fix you, black man. I'm sorry. I can talk sometimes, but I don't even feel like talking to people. Like, yeah, I will keep that in mind. With that being said, that is all I have to add to this conversation. I don't think Concerned is going to pop back in. I was giving her some time, but I think we're going to end it here. Thank you for everyone that came. I'm going to play my outro. Make sure to leave a like on the video. Comment your thoughts below. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Share it with your friends and fellow fruitcakes. Yeah, I think that's it. My name is Prince Petty, and this has been Man with a Mic.